Hi everyone. So this is the second video about squaring. Again, I mentioned it in my other video. I have a fan running here because my room is very hot. So hopefully the humming is not too annoying. But basically a very quick video about squares. Okay. Squares of a number is when you multiply a number by itself. So for example, 2 times 2. Okay. That's 4. So 4 is the square of 2. And we write the square like this. This is our base. This is our exponent. So 2 squared is 4. 3 squared means 3 times 3. And that's 9. So 9 is when we square 3, or when we raise 3 to the second power. Okay. So just as we can square a number and get it square, we can take a number and take the square root of it. So it's the opposite. So if I ask for the square root, first of all, I'm looking for this symbol, which is called a radical, and I put the number under it. Okay, so this means I'm asking for, normally we write the for square root, we have different roots. We don't just have square roots, but for square root, we don't write the 2 over here. So if you don't see it, that means we're taking the square root. So basically, we're asking ourselves, what number multiple by itself is 9? And the answer is 3. It's really plus and minus 3, but we're not focusing on the negative roots right now. So it's easy when the numbers are smaller. And I recommend that you memorize complete squares from 1 through at least 15, so that you know what is 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, so on and so forth, up to 15, right? And then that way you can easily know that, for example, the square root of 169 is 13, because you've learned that 13 times 13 is 169. It just saves you time, okay? Or you can use a calculator, okay? But that's not always the case. Sometimes a number doesn't have a complete square because, for example, 35, okay? 35 is not a complete square. What that means is that we can't find any number that multiplied by itself would be 35, okay? So we can estimate it, but it's really just guessing. So when you get something like this, just for the purpose of our class, you're just going to use a calculator, okay? Or a square root table, right? So that you can see. We can tell that it's going to fall anywhere between, so the closest complete squares to 35 is 36, okay? And 25, because 5 times 5 is 25, and 6 times 6 is 36, and 35 is in between, okay? So we know that it's going to be, so square root of 25 is 5, and square root of 36 is 6. So we know that square root of 35 is going to fall anywhere between 5 and 6, but that's all we can tell. We can't really know the exact square root, and it doesn't have a exact square root. But if we want to come close, we're just going to basically either use a table. They have square root tables online, or we're just going to take the square root of 35, and I can see a thing. So 35, and is 5.9, which makes sense because we already determined that the square root of 35 is between 5 and 6. So it's 5.91 approximately, okay? We use a little thing like this, which means almost equal to, not quite, and it will be 5.91, okay? Sometimes in your homework and quiz, you're asked to do something like this: 81 plus 9, okay? To do this, you're going to take the square root under each radical first. 81 is the square root of 9, and 9 is the square of 3. So you're going to take the square roots first, and then you're going to add them, okay? Sometimes it may not be quite as fast. Let's say you had 12 plus 9. Now, 12 is not a square root. We can go ahead and use the calculator, but your book sometimes asks you to do something first. We can write 12 as 4 times 3. And the square root of 4 is actually 2. So we can bring that out. Square root of 4 is 2. Okay. And so that part is done. We can't do anything more with that. And the square root of 9 is 3. Okay. So sometimes you're asked to do this. I'm not sure if your book has asked you to do that or not, but if you encounter that, I want you to have seen it, okay? But then that means we still have to take the square root of 3 using a calculator, multiply by 2, and then add it to 3, right? So for the most part, we are not asking you to do this here. So if you get something like this, where you don't have a square root, complete square root, use a calculator, find the square root of 12, and then find the square root of 9, which is 3, and then add them together. So let's do this one together, for example, so that you can see, since 12 doesn't have a complete square root. So we're going to do 12 square root of 12, and you just need a simple calculator for this, which is 3.46. So we're going to round this to 3.46. And then square root of 3 is 9 is 3, and then we add them together and we get 9.46, and that would be the answer. And that's pretty much the what we are dealing with as far as squares and square roots are concerned. If you have any questions, let me know. But that's the extent of it for this unit. So a little bit two different things that we're dealing with, the geometry part and the square root part. And also don't forget that you have that extra assignment today.